everyone. Today we got to play Messina 1347. So we are going to go back in time and try to help the city defend against the plague. But before
just let it spread like we did in the game for a good long while.
Or that.
I mean...
There's that.
There's a couple of options. All right, but before we get into it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell because board games are amazing and that's what we do.
Or you're just plague fans.
I mean, you know, whatever. We'll take what we can get. We'll totally take a pity subscription. All right, so let's talk about this game, Robert. Tell us more about it.
So 2021 release. Overall rank on Board Game Geek is 1,130 with it's rated at 7.7, so pretty good score there. Designed by Raul Fernandez Aparicio and Vladimir Suchi. Art by Michael Pachel, I believe is how you pronounce his name. I apologize otherwise. Published by Delicious Games. MSRP.
Nothing makes sense. It screams delicious more than rats.
And legs, yeah.
It sounds delicious. And Rio Grande Games. But MSRP is a little higher than I anticipated. I didn't think it'd be this high. $74.95 MSRP. But you can certainly get it cheaper other places. Card House had it down at $51.79. Amazon had it for $68. eBay, I saw $59. Geek Market had it down to $55.
Well, you said it was Rio Grande. Rio Grande tends to have higher prices than a lot of the other publishing companies. Whatever, for some reason, their games always tend to be higher.
But they're usually high quality games.
Yeah, they're
usually good games.
Yeah, so
it's a little pricey.
So let's talk about the actual components. So you do have linen finish on your player board, on the tiles. You know, so...
And it's modular because you can flip them over and there's multiple sides.
So there's multiple sides. There's definitely some module. You do get a couple of stickers with some of the wooden
which Randy was really happy about.
So, well, there's not that many. You do get some rat tokens, which are shaped. Your meeples are pretty generic meeples. I mean, overall, there's nothing absolutely fantastic as far as pieces and components go.
But you get a lot of bits.
You do get a lot of bits, and I do think like the cardstock is really nice quality.
Yeah.
But that's...
But it's standard bits.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's nothing special.
It's not like deluxeified or
cardboard coin, which we never use. We always just get out the poker chip coin.
I mean, this would be like a $55, $60 game to me, not $70.
Well, which is what it's about selling at, right? So at least the market has kind of helped with what you should actually pay for this game. Yeah, so there's that. But overall, quality of components, I think they're okay. There's nothing great. I'm at a 6.5. What are you guys thinking?
Probably a 6. I don't think I'm even give it a half point because I mean the rats are about the only thing. But that's not. I mean, it's a hole. It's not really inlaid. Yeah, inlaid would be there'd be a second layer.
It's not double layered.
It's just a hole punch, and it's not textured on one side. It's like one side of it's the smooth texture, the other side's rough. And so when you play, I never want to play the other side because I always have to have it smooth.
You've got problems.
Yeah, I know. So but my problems are not going to give it another half point. I can six is where it's at.
All right, what about you, Robert? What do you think?
I think I'm a 6. It's definitely better than Catan, but not by much.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so now let's talk about the actual theme. The theme is, this is Messina 1347. Plague is about to hit the city, and you are trying to stomp off the plague by burning everything.
That's an option.
Burn it down.
Burn it down. And you're trying to save people, and if you do save the people, you got to put them in quarantine, and then you put them to work. Even while they're in quarantine.
Even while they're in quarantine.
Even while they're in quarantine.
Which, as a safety guy, makes sense to me. Because that's what we do for work comp.
Yeah, so, I mean... Yeah, you never want them out of work.
That's right.
We want to make sure they have purpose in their life.
Right.
So overall, though, okay, this is a little bit morbid of me, but even in high school, I loved learning about the Black Death. So as much as it's not a good thing,
you still found it interesting.
That's the right word. I find this theme very interesting, and I can appreciate it.
I want to point out I didn't know this when I married her.
You live and you learn. All right, so, but yeah, so actually, I appreciate the theme. I think the mechanics are directly related. Having the plague tokens, trying to defend against the rats if you don't get rid of it. But having your city trying to get people to do do different things. I can kind of appreciate that. I think that's integral.
Well, I appreciate the fact that they actually took the history of Messina, because I didn't know about this until after we started playing the game, but I watched a video about the origin of the Black Plague in Europe was through Messina was a good, that's where a lot of it spread from. And it was from boats coming into the port, and they're finding all kinds of passengers and sailors dead on the boats, and they didn't know what it was. They just assumed it was people died of natural causes or whatever. But
of a standard plague, right? Because you got the fever and the smallpox and all that stuff going on.
Well, but they didn't know they didn't know why they died.
Yeah, I mean, the only option was to burn it down.
So,
but
in the meantime, the rats are coming off the boats in droves,
and more boats coming in.
And the rats finding other boats to go on, and they're traveling and spreading. So again,
what would you score?
Well, I think they did a great job on the art. Again, you can definitely see the city tiles going on. They did a really good job with iconography. That's very easy to understand on this one. So for me, I'm probably going to give this theme probably 7.5. I really liked it. What about you guys?
Given the history of this and the fact that they translated that history into a strategy game, I'm going to give it an 8 just because I like the fact that they took such a heavy, dark story and translated it into a game where you actually can play through the history. I mean, yes, it's not as long, obviously, although it felt like it during this game. But
I didn't even leave the table once this game.
But yeah, I mean, it's something. I always like to see a game when they take something like a historic thing and it's not just layered on. It's translated into the gameplay exhaustively. They did a great job in incorporating this, and it teaches you something.
Well, and I will say, if I was teaching this at a high school level, I would totally bring this in on Friday. Yeah, we're going to be learning about...
Since yesterday you're in that thing, we're going to play about it.
If you could get, your 6th and 7th grade, or 7th period classes to agree to a waiver for them to stay after to play the rest of this game.
It is a pretty game.
I'm on the fence when it comes to the theme. I like the art, but... just because it's well drawn, but overall it looks pretty dated to me. I mean, for a game that's brand new practically, it doesn't, it feels like a nicer version from a game from like 2010 or 2005. Which isn't bad per se, but I just thought it would look a little bit more updated, and it really doesn't. But I do like the theme, the historical aspect of it. So I think I'm a 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So now let's move on to the rules. Now, a little caveat: these rules are a bit.
This game is very. I would say this is a medium to heavy game, closer to the heavy side of this one, just because there's so many little rules.
I think the better way to let people know how tough it was for you to learn. How many times? Including today, you played.
I can't recall if we played this it's been close to 10 now. I think.
Okay, so let's say
we have gotten the rules right.
You've gotten the rules
100% once.
Okay, so I think that should tell you something.
Now, there's a couple of reasons why. Okay, so before we get into the rules,
you're gonna show them that lovely cheat sheet.
This crappy cheat sheet, you mean? Okay, so here's the thing though: the board iconography and all this is fine, but they decided to do complete iconography for the cheat sheet. Now, my problem is when you're first playing this game, this means nothing, okay? Even 10 games in, most of this still means nothing to me, okay? So, useless.
I can understand, now that we've played through it several times, bits and pieces of this.
That's what I'm saying.
Why it's sequenced this way and organized this way, I still have no clue. I mean, everything, like bits of it, if you look individually at things, yes, I can understand what they're trying to convey from it. But why it's arranged in the way it is, I have no idea.
So some work for graphic design is needed.
Yeah, it's completely useless as a cheat sheet, especially for someone who's trying to play the game as a new person.
Useless.
So then you're turning to the rulebook, which this rulebook is 20 pages long. It has a nice cover on it. And it does go and show you, all the components with pictures, which I always like that. The layout is pretty easy to set it up, but there's a lot of setup on this. There's a ton of tokens. Everything's in it. You got to bag it. So there's, they do give you some of the bags, but they're the kind that tear as soon as you try to open them. So not good bags they gave you. And so everything is just loose in the box in these bags, and you're going to get it out, and you have to, figure out, set everything up, put it in bowls or whatever your storage of choice is, and then get everybody out. And then there's so many minute rules in this game. It's just trying to remember all of the things that are going on every time you get it out.
So as far as setup, I think a lot of people probably are somewhat familiar with Terra Mystica now. Do you think it's that level of complexity?
I think it's beyond that level.
Really?
I think I almost compare it to Agricola. There's a lot of setup for this sucker.
Okay.
And there's a lot of maintenance.
But it doesn't last 15 minutes like Agricola.
Well,
this one's actually...
At least it's worth the setup, okay? No, and then not only that, though, but you got to talk about the setup in between each round. Because...
Yeah, there's cleanup and
there's cleanup and there's a lot of administration in this game where, you need someone that knows kind of what they're doing to do this.
Yeah.
And,
the rules are they label the sections nicely. Everything's separated nicely. It's just there's so much of it. And it's so easy to skip one little thing, and then you figure it out halfway through the game, and it's like, oh, we messed that up. And that's what's happened every game except for this one, because we played it enough times that we got it.
Yeah, the first 3 or 4 games, we didn't realize you could buy
and being able to move up on some tracks.
Yeah, you could actually just pay money, because at one game I had a bunch of money. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with all these coins? There's a reason why you can have these coins, and I can't find anything to do with them. And then if I had known, I would have been like...
I wish I had that problem. I didn't.
That's not this game. This game, I was tight on everything. I barely had anything to squeeze.
And she ringed us.
Yeah. And you get through this rule book, and then you get to page 18, and it's like, advanced variant. It's like, it's advanced enough. I don't need that advanced variant. I'm sure some of you are diehard, heavy Euro gamers. That's great to have that.
I want to play it.
We've already played it, part of it. I didn't even realize this board, if you flip it over, has a different orientation for everything.
Oh, man, I want to play that.
So, it's just a matter, there's so many rules. It's not that the book is bad. It's not. Everything's in there. I don't think we've had any questions.
That kind of goes towards game mechanics, right?
Yeah.
Did it teach you to play the game?
Eventually, after many playthroughs.
Okay.
We got out. We stumbled through it every time. And then we realized there was something we missed. So if you can read a rule book and get 100% of the detail down, and you've got that ability.
So would you recommend a playthrough video or something?
I hate to say that because I don't like playthrough videos. I don't learn that way. But, I think if you're wanting to try this game out, I would definitely recommend checking out something to understand the things that are happening in this. And even then, you're going to find things you're forgetting. There's just so much to it.
Which is why, if they had a good cheat sheet, it wouldn't be so bad.
So, I don't really want to penalize the rulebook heavily because it's the content, not the rulebook. But I'm probably going to give this a 6.5 just because all those minute rules and this. This is what.
Yeah, but is it really the game's fault? I mean, if it's a complex game, isn't it more on us to be able to absorb it and understand it? It's got nothing to do with the rule.
My thing is okay, if all the material is there, then that's great, and that's the way it should be. But the fact is you created these useless cheat sheets. I'm sure that he'd probably given this an 8. If not for these stupid things.
I would probably give it a 7. I don't think I would have gone an 8. But I think it needs to have better because you don't want to have everybody have to read this rule.
Or
no, it's like this is your point. This is your point. This is your point. It's not. There's not. I mean, there are examples in some of this, but it's not thorough enough to get every little point across that's in the game. And given that, it's just trying to explain this to other players. Unless you're going to have everybody read this book and do a dissertation on it, you're going to have things missed by players. And then you're going to have people making accusations. Well, you didn't tell me that and all that. So it's just, this is your first time playing. And you already said you guys knew what you were doing.
Yeah, that's more on the gameplay side that I was going to talk about. That.
At the end of the day, though, and this is the thing, when you have this complex of a game, you should have a really good cheat sheet.
Yeah.
That's some reality, because there is a lot going on, and even if, say for whatever reason we don't get this out until next year sometime, right? this is not going to help us. This is not going to help us jog our memory, and we already semi know how to play, right? We're going to end up having to reread that, and for this complex of a game, that's a problem. And I think that's I'm actually fine with the 6.5, 7 for the rulebook, not just because the rulebook's bad, but because the player aids, and this is typically where we put that.
So I'm, again, this is just my first time, but I'm really getting the feeling that they didn't like the two-sheet. just put it out there.
Where did you get that idea,
Just
Rob?
put it out there.
Because it's useless.
All right.
Did you use it at all through the whole entire game?
No, this was in a foreign language.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, now let's actually talk about the gameplay. Now, again, this one's super complex, so we're going to go over the basics with you guys, just so you guys can kind of get the feeling of the game. So everybody starts with actually 3 workers. The other 2 workers that are in your bags are actually going to go up on the middle track for religious fervor, and that's how you get more people, okay? The bottom track has to do with advancing your work crews, and then the top track is about putting out the plague, okay? So we're going to kind of go from there. Okay, all right, so part of what you're going to end up doing is you have 3 workers, and you're going to place them onto the board the first game.
Before that, you have to set up the board. So every round, you're going to have a boat arrive that's going to get plague on it. It's going to bring in more passengers who are going to explore the city. So you're going to place the different varieties of passengers onto the board. And you have this really cool system that uses this dial that you turn one click, and it tells you, first of all, where the plague spreads to, which spaces, based upon the rat. They have different images of rats on the spaces. So you're going to place tokens on all the ones that match. And then you're going to place your passenger types. So you have the religious, you have the worker class, and you got the nobles. And you're going to place them onto the spaces that based on the color system. And so that setup is not that bad, but it is just tedious. You have that work that you have to do each time. And each round, there's a slight variance. Well, at least some of the rounds, there's slight variances in that cleanup or setup. And then after that, that's when you start placing your workers.
Okay, yeah. So you start the game with 3 workers. So you're going to put one down, standing up in this particular case. So there are basically resource tiles, I think, is a big component. Another one is track tiles. So basically, if you go up the track. Now, the biggest thing is most of the time throughout the game, you're looking for a couple of things. Yes, there's the action on the tile, but is there a plague cube on the tile, which if you can resolve goes up the plague track, which therefore ends up getting victory points at the end. Are there workers at that tile? Because if you can save the workers, they go in your quarantine or on your space to do work for you. So again, also beneficial. So there's 3 components that you're looking at when you go to select a tile, which I think is one of the reasons why this is more of a hefty game, because some have all 3, some only have 2, some only have 1. And so, okay, do I pay the resources, get rid of the plague, and get the action, or do I go to this other thing that maybe not as powerful, but I don't have to pay the resources to get rid of it?
It's a lot of risk versus reward.
Yes, absolutely. And this game is full of it. Okay, so I'm going to end up placing here. And in this case, I'm going to get the coin, and I'm going to do this track. So we're going to talk about this track real quick. So basically, there are 3 different tracks going on. There's the religious track, there's the noble track, and there is the worker track. So basically, when you move up the track, you get options if you have people occupying those spaces. So like I said, there's no point moving up this track if you don't have people there. So it's imperative that you pick up people before you go up the track, maybe, okay? Or understand that you're basically wasting a turn. So with that, so you kind of want to make sure you place your workers right. And so some tracks are more valuable to you or not because you actually have people occupied there.
And your workers just look like these little chits.
Yeah, so. And they are on the tiles when you go to place them. Now, the other thing is so instead of maybe doing that, maybe I'm going to actually go to the plague. Now, I actually don't have any flame with me, but typically at the beginning of the game, 1 flame gets rid of 1 plague. Now, towards the end of the game, that changes when the plague becomes a little more deadly, and it takes 2 flame to kill a plague. Okay, but that first round, but see, I don't have it right now. I don't have any of the flame. I was a slacker, didn't pick any up. And so instead, I'm actually going to be able to do the action, pick up any workers, save those people, but then I end up having to take a penalty, which, for example, if I have 2 plague tokens, I'm going to end up taking 2 rat tokens. Now, the first rat you get is worth -0. Second one is -1, But by the time you get to 10, it's negative 21 victory points. So that can get pretty nasty. So you want to manage that, right? Getting 1 or 2 ain't going to hurt you through the game, but you start stacking them up. I feel it's almost like corruption tiles in
but there's
Waterdeep.
no way to get rid of them.
Yeah,
there's not.
Yeah, unlike
once you collect a rat, you're stuck with it for the rest of the game.
Right. So you want to be very, very careful about when you pick those up. Now, so there's resources. There's this track that you can do. With this, though, the other action is construction. Okay, so there's a couple of different construction projects that you can complete. You can complete buildings that people that are whole and healthy will produce either an income or an instant effect at the end of the game, or you can end up completing these wagons, which will later will allow you to repopulate the city. And then you also have these houses that go for
their
infirmaries that lets them, while they're working on getting better, actually produce.
While you're lying there in bed with your full body cast,
dying,
we need to cut some wood. Yeah, we need to cut you. You need to cut some wood. You're all by yourself. You can manage that, right? It'll be fine.
Just stay over there, away from everybody.
Yeah, just stay away from everybody else. So that's essentially what that kind of looks like there. So that construction allows you to build those, and you build those with the resources, basically wood and coin. And then now the end game buildings, they have to be populated to get the income. So you can build them and not have workers, but then you don't get the income. So it's very imperative that you kind of want, when you build them, get them to fill up. Now, I will say there is another thing that we kind of didn't mention is you can upgrade your workers. So there's actions on the board that let you upgrade your workers. There's actions in your, I guess, work circle here that allows you to upgrade your worker. And basically, when you upgrade your worker, they can produce 1 victory point if they're basically on these buildings here. Not if they're in the center.
And some buildings have either more powerful abilities or will only work if you have an upgraded worker.
Correct. So that's very imperative to kind of keep track of. Now, something to also note on this, there are the standard tiles, but then there are also ships coming in. If you destroy the plague on the ships, which again, you're paying your fire or whatever, you can end up keeping the ship. You'll trigger the in this case, for example, this one is worth 3 coins. So I'm going to take my 3 coins. I'm going to take my ship. I'm going to put it over here. There is a way to basically increase income, not income,
just
increase end of game victory points depending on the task. So there are 3 different scroll tracks, if you will, on your player board. You can play on the A side, which has all 3 being the same for all the party. You can flip them on the other side where they're all different for everybody. Anyway, and so like in this case, so you can move those up. So I may say, you know what, I'm going to focus on ships. I'm going to get my, ship track. So each ship can end up being worth 6 victory points if I get it all the way up the track. So if that's what I'm focusing on, great, However, I may be like, all right, instead of doing that, I'm going to be focusing on building. So the one thing we didn't mention is, okay, so I told you about repopulating the city. So that's another thing you can kind of focus on and get victory points for. So you have to have the wagons. They flip over every round. So once you use them for the round, they get flipped over, and then they can be reactivate at the end. So if I were to want to repopulate the city, I have to have an available wagon that is not used yet. And then I'm going to go to the location. But instead of taking the action, I'm going to actually spin the worker. So in this case, this one requires a green and brown worker that are not flipped over. Well, I have those. Okay, so I'm going to spin those. I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to put one of my tiles on here. Now, so after I place that, any time afterwards, someone uses that tile, I get 2 victory points. But there's a problem. If I build it early and plague gets on it and I don't take care of that plague, or the person who goes there doesn't take care of the plague, bad things happen.
You get a rat.
You get a rat, which again, 1 or 2 rats, not a big deal, but they do end up adding up. So you just want to be careful with those. So that was a lot. There's a lot of pieces going on.
And not to mention, we talked about placing the initial placement. Once you're on the board, at the end of the round, you stay on that space. You don't come back off the board.
So basically, you put everyone laying down because they took a nap wherever they were because, it's been a long day.
That's what people do.
I mean, heck, they fought a bunch of plague. Okay, so they're all laying down, and then when you go to reenact, you'll you'll stand them up, and that's how you know you've played that worker.
And then you can only move one space adjacent unless you pay coin to move further on. And you have, or you can just stand up in the same spot you're in. But if there's a rat there, you still have to fight the rat.
Yeah.
And if somebody else moves, they can move. Normally, you cannot go into a space that it's occupied, but when they're lying down, it doesn't count as occupied. So you can move into that space, and then the person who's there would have to leave when their turn comes around. But
and they might yell at you because they really wanted that spot.
Yeah, I'm like, listen, I was there, I was holding it.
Right. I moved there for a reason.
Yeah, leave me alone.
Now, why did those guys get to lie down, but the people in the infirmaries have to work? I don't understand that.
Well, I mean,
it's priorities, Randy.
Right. Well, they did an action and then they took a nap. These guys are just laying down all the time, so they got to get to work. No.
Oh, man, I always buy the infirmaries and put my sick people to work.
So what did you think overall gameplay?
So there's a lot going on, but I actually really enjoyed it. It's very strategic, and it's something that I will say I finally beat Randy in this game, and I feel a little bit of happiness inside.
Yes, it dropped my score for this game a few points. So
no, whatever. No, there's a lot to think about, and there is definitely a couple of strategies you can go. I just, the more you play this, I think the more you get out of this game. I think this is one of those, the more you play, the more you realize
she's still in my thunder on that. So,
sorry about that.
That's right.
But overall,
it's true.
But it is true because, there's so much going on. If you don't have a clear plan, it just doesn't seem to quite work as well as when you're just like, oh, well, this is available, because that's how I normally, hey, that looks good. That is not the case with this game, and that's the only way I was able to beat Randy. It's like, I knew exactly what I was doing, I was 3 moves ahead. I was going here, which some of you guys ruined.
Didn't stop you from winning.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you dominated us. You kind of lapped us.
So overall, I actually really, really enjoyed this game. It is a little bit of a brain burner, which I appreciate. I am actually probably going to give this 8.9. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Why not go on up to 9? Why are you giving that plus the 0.1 off?
I have no idea. I just felt right.
You've been around Heather too much.
No. I mean, for it to be at a 9, I would almost have to put it on one of, it is a pretty awesome game. My only concern is that there's a lot of brain burning, and I don't think it's very accessible to other people unless you like a good brain burn. Like, I do not see some of our friends playing this because it's a brain burner.
Right. Randy?
On this one, I'm torn because I think it's a lot of fun as far as, and I love the history of it. My concern is it's a little repetitive. Each time we play, it's the same strategies you kind of have to go for to win the game. You're gonna, at least from what I've seen, I haven't seen.
But you haven't played the other side though, so that
might make a difference. And not only that though, but I've played it different every single time, so that's not.
Yeah, and this is the first time you won, and what did you do? For most part, you followed the strategy that I used to win most of the times. Yes, you did. You got your workers. You created these things like that. That's what I normally do. Those, taking ownership of the tiles.
Well, honestly though, but that was a circumstance. Like, I think taking ownership is a required piece, because last time I completely ignored that.
And I won handily.
Yeah, and you won handily. So I think, but that's the whole point, right? You've got to repopulate the city. That's part of the theme on that one. Now, there is something I do want to end up kind of reviewing when we play this.
Sorry.
When we... No, sorry. When we go to play this again, I'm curious about, because we typically set these up the last round or the round prior.
Because that's when the plague slows down. And
I would almost like to see a strategy where you just do that from the get-go. And I'm very intrigued on how that would work out, and I want to see that played out. And so that's the same thing for me. It's like, I know there's that strategy there, and I want someone to take, the risk and do it. I know it's going to end up being me.
And I'm going to go out of my way to stop you and see how many rats you get. That's the thing.
That's rude.
Hey, I know me. So, I think this game it's fun, and I like the history. I like the story. The fact that you're playing through what in essence it was a terrible time, but the fact is that you got a good strategy game out of it. Now, is it a great strategy game? I don't think so. I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I'm going to probably give this one a 8. I think it's an 8 level game for me. I think it's one I'm always happy to play. Obviously, we've played it a lot of times, which is something we usually don't get an opportunity to do. And each one of those times we were planning on reviewing it, we had to wait because we wanted to make sure we got it right, or we had something come up because it's such a long game that we didn't get an opportunity to.
Like, it's late, it's bedtime. Good night.
Yeah. So finally, we got to get the review out. So yeah, I think 8 is where I'm at.
So in my opinion, initial gameplay. It's the first time I've played it. I'm not going to go as high as that because, as Miranda pointed out, this game rewards multiple playthroughs. And you can clearly tell they had developed strategies, and it worked very well. I didn't know those strategies, so I really wasn't on the same level competitive, being able to play at the same level they did. So I think I'm going to give it a 7 just before initial playthrough. I think it's something, if I played multiple times, I think I would really like. Kind of like a Terra Mystica or Twilight Imperium or something where if I played it a bunch, I would really grow to like it a lot more. But initially, not that high because I got my butt whipped. So I'm going to give it a 7.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast getting this one out. Hopefully, you'll come hang out with us again. We'll catch you guys later. Bye.
Bye.